Gotta kinda be quiet since my nephew is sleeping in the next room. But anyway, Pumpkinhead is a 1988 supernatural horror film directed by Sam Winston in his directorial debut. It stars Lance Henriksen, John D'Aquino, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, and Carrie Remsen, among others. It surprisingly has no pumpkin-headed monsters despite the title, but that's beside the point. Anyway, let's review. This film centers on a shop owner named Ed Harley, played by Henriksen, raising his son Billy, played by Matthew Hurley, in the country. Shortly after, a group of teens come by and start doing stunts on their bikes when one of them accidentally runs over Billy and ends up killing him. Enraged by this, Ed meets up with a local witch to summon a monstrous entity known as Pumpkinhead, a demon that is said to help people take vengeance on anyone that has horribly wronged them. The ritual is a success, but when the monster starts to kill those who are not directly involved in the murder, Ed starts to regret summoning the monster. He decides to try to put a stop to it himself, but doing so could end up costing him greatly. This is a really neat premise. The idea of vengeance is explored very well with it, and given how much the characters are developed, you can more than understand why Ed wants to take vengeance due to the fact that he didn't have a wife and son, and his son was the only family that was living with him. So as much as you might condemn his actions, you can understand why his frustration would lead to such a thing. I give premise an A. A very interesting idea explored in a surprisingly tragic way. Next is acting. It was pretty good. I think the strongest area when it came to this category was the more empathetic/emotional moments from the characters. As I said, you could definitely feel Ed's frustration and sadness from losing his son, and I think Henriksen more than demonstrated that through his acting. There's one scene where he gives the death stare to one of the teenagers after he tries to tell him that his son's death was an accident. He did not need to say anything for you to know that he wanted all these teens dead due to his son's death. It actually was kind of intimidating. His reaction to his son's corpse felt surprisingly real. He didn't scream or break out crying, but just cradled his son in his arms. But just this alone was enough to make me feel strong sympathy for this character, and the way Henriksen exhibited such emotion in this scene was just so powerful. The acting from the teens is decent. They convey their fear and regret fairly well, but I think Henriksen was the strongest, given that he proved that you can exhibit such strong reaction by not even saying anything. I give acting a B+. Next is special effects, which were also pretty strong. The fact that they were all pretty much, practical definitely adds some points. The design of the monster is pretty badass, and the efforts that the effects team put into it made it seem surprisingly realistic due to not only its appearance but also its movements. It felt a lot more real than if they were to use CGI or anything like that. I heard this film is going to be remade, and I strongly hope they take the same approach with it. It also helped that the director, Stan Winston, was experienced in special effects prior to this film. I give special effects an A+. Next is cinematography, and while it was not the greatest, it really helped the overall atmosphere of the film. Some of the best shots were the scenes involving the monster, because they really helped build up his intimidating presence as this really menacing threat. The night scenes were especially good. Not much else to say, but the cinematography was pretty decent. I give cinematography a B+. Next is directing, and I love the way Stan Winston put this film together. It starts out a bit slow at first, but really takes off once Ed summons the creature after his son dies. Winston explored grief in such a grisly, upsetting, and disturbing way, and the fact that he makes you understand why Ed is doing what he is doing is also very disturbing, since it just shows how much grief can affect someone. What's even scarier is that I could see a lot of people doing this if it were real, because of how consuming the idea of revenge can be. I give directing an A. Overall, Pumpkinhead is a very entertaining film with some surprisingly sad moments. Add in some fairly decent acting and a badass monster design, and you have yourself an iconic horror film. I give Pumpkinhead an A-. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and sub for more content.